So, will it take winning a Super Bowl in order for the Washington Commanders to actually finally be respected in the NFL? Let's talk about it. And welcome back to another video here on the Washington Football Maniacs channel. My name is Greg. I am your host here. Nice to meet you. This channel, of course, is dedicated to news and commentary for the Washington Commanders. If you're down with that, please make sure that you have subscribed to this channel. And when you do, also make sure you hit that notification bell so you won't miss any other video releases. Before we get into today's podcast, let's talk about something that is on a lot of our minds, that's saving money. Well, our partners here at Mint Mobile want to save you some money.
Have you ever thought, why is my wireless bill so expensive? What are you paying all of that money for? Speed, coverage, data, access to 5G, unlimited talk and text? What about mobile hotspots? Well, with my partners at Mint Mobile, they offer all of those features for as low as $15 a month, and it is very easy to get started with Mint Mobile. How does it work? Well, Mint Mobile works with your digital eSIMs card that most phones nowadays come with. You could be up and running in less than 15 minutes. And if you don't have a digital eSIMs card in your phone, my partners at Mint Mobile will send you a physical SIM for free. That's right, for free. Big Wireless wants you to think that it's too difficult to switch, but Mint Mobile makes it super easy, and their service is outstanding. I have been testing Mint Mobile for the last couple of months, and I have not seen any drops in calls, and performance and speed has been outstanding. I can watch YouTube in 4K, movies in 4K. I can even play online video games without any buffering whatsoever. Why pay all of that money for access to premium services when you can get all of those services with Mint Mobile for a fraction of the cost? Switch to Mint Mobile today. Go to trymintmobile.com/maniacs and get started on your savings. The link will be in the description of this video. Let's get to it. Speaking of getting to it, what was that? What was I saying? Oh, that's right.
Now, I'm sure that a lot of fans around the NFL say that their team doesn't get the respect that they deserve. Even probably Super Bowl teams. Those fans would probably be like, you know what? How many Super Bowls do we have to win before we're actually respected? I'm sure that there's probably some Kansas City fans who are probably thinking the same thing. Well, definitely the Washington fans have felt that for years, right? Especially when Dan Snyder took over as the new owner. It felt like that the team just kind of went downhill after that, for lack of better terms. And it just feels that we've been the laughing stock of the NFL for the past several years, save for a year here and there where we're actually pretty good. But we usually wind up getting like an early exit in the playoffs when we do make the playoffs. Well, I think that a lot of this is going to come from winning. Certainly, when you look at our team, we haven't won as much as, of course, a lot of other teams around the league. So naturally, you're not going to have the respect that you would from, like, Kansas City or in the recent past, New England Patriots or San Francisco 49ers. Although, the 49ers were a little bit of a laughing stock, several years back. But I just feel that there are a few things that's going to help this team turn around. Certainly, one thing that's already happened: new ownership. Right, new ownership is always going to make things better. At least that's what we hope. Coming from Dan Snyder, you feel like it couldn't get any worse, right? But we really feel like that Josh Harris is doing what he possibly can to turn this team around to make it respectful. One of those things that he did, of course, was hire Adam Peters, and then after that, and then, of course, not only that, but to bring in a lot of other sports execs who have had success with their franchises, and to bring them in at least on a consultant type of level and pick their brains and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to turn things around here in Washington. So I've also appreciated what he has done in terms of that. But the biggest thing, as far as on the field, directly, hiring Dan Quinn. Now, I know a lot of us, when the Commanders were looking for their head coach at the end of last season, a lot of us were like, we don't want any retreads. We went down that route. We don't want that anymore. We don't want another Ron Rivera. We want a Brian Johnson. We want a McDaniel's. We want or McDonald's, whatever his name is now. See, once I get past it, don't worry about it anymore, right? We wanted these young guys. We wanted a young, innovative. We wanted the next Sean McVay. I mean, that's what we really wanted. And we felt that that's what we needed. Because you tend to notice this pattern with certain teams who hire, especially with Washington. You go back and look at the pattern. It's offensive mind, and then after they're gone, next guy is the defensive mind. Then you bring back the offensive mind, and then you bring back, you go with the defensive mind. All the while, you go with the young up and comer or the unknown, and then the well seasoned veteran, and then the up and comer, and then the well seasoned veteran. So it's like, it just felt like it was the rotation, endless rotation. And that's kind of like what the fans wanted too, right? Like, okay, well, we try the defensive approach. Now let's go with the offensive mind this time. And then it just never seemed to work. Well, I feel like, honestly, Dan Quinn, he's one of those that, of course, all of us are kind of joking about, him having to fly commercial. And yeah, we know this guy didn't get the job. And wow, did that make us all look like heels? Yeah, we were so dumb. I was so dumb. I was making fun of this on Twitter. Then guess who got hired? Dan Quinn. And you know what? He was the best person for the job. Because one thing that he said, ever since his last head coaching job, he had been gathering information. He had been trying to figure out what he can do differently, and he had been working on this moment ever since he left Atlanta. And of course, he was very successful in Dallas as a defensive coordinator. And so he knew that once that he had that opportunity again, that he was going to be ready. And so far, he seems that way. He's put together what I consider a pretty solid coaching staff. And then, of course, you really won't know that until you really start seeing him on the field. But it seems like he has put together some fine coaches, some coaches who have had playoff experience, Super Bowl experiences, coaches who are just really good at their positions and things like that. So I felt like he's really put together the best coaching staff for this team. And of course, also mentioning Adam Peterson, who has helped, or Adam Peters, who has helped to bring in, I think, a pretty good lineup of players as well. He's turned over the roster from what it was a year ago, and so that right there should be enough. But and of course, the other one I put down, I've already mentioned this, Josh Harris already being a better owner than Dan Snyder. It didn't take much, did it? But he's doing what he can. One thing he's doing on the business side of it, he is bringing in some good, solid business minds to the Washington Commanders. He's doing what he can do with the situation they're in currently at was it Commanders Field, trying to make sure that that stadium is renovated, that is a much better NFL experience than what fans have had in the past. So I respect that, because obviously it's going to take a little bit longer to get a new stadium than what we were hoping it was going to be. So he's until then, you make sure that where your home is right now, that it's the best foot forward. And so he's investing money back into the franchise. And it seemed like Dan Snyder, it's one thing he didn't want to do. He didn't want to invest money. He wanted to buy Super Bowls, and then he seemed like, as far as infrastructure and things like that, it was zilch on that. The other thing that I think might bring also some respect back, and I know this has been a little bit more of a controversial thing, and that you have a certain set of people that's like, why keep bringing this up? Let it go. And then you have others like, yeah, keep talking about it. But I think a rebrand also will help with respect because there's so many people out there that hate the Commanders brand. And some people felt it was like a pretty lazy branding of a team. And so I think that you do consider maybe rebranding to something that, number one, is a little bit more of a fan favorite that really does capture the past and brings everybody together. I don't think Commanders does that. I think even if the team starts winning, I think people will still be kind of upset over the branding. So I think a proper rebrand would definitely help to bring respect back to the team. What other? What about? Okay, this question I had. What about other teams that are respected but have no recent Super Bowl wins? What teams are those? Now, those fans will argue with me, but I feel like Dallas has always had the respect year in and year out. Like they're never picked to be the bottom of the barrel. They're always picked to go deep in the playoffs. If not, they're picked to be Super Bowl teams. Now, they do wind up disappointing their fans in a lot of times, but um, they are never picked to, um, you know, to be the team that's going to be the caboose. And they haven't won a Super Bowl. It hadn't been much sooner since we'd won our Super Bowl. All of their Super Bowl wins came in the 1990s, and they haven't gotten close to it since. Well, maybe if that catch was ruled a catch for Dax, maybe they would have been in the championship game. But they haven't gotten there, and so I think that Dallas is always a team that seems to be respected, at least in the media, even if they haven't had any recent Super Bowl wins. Packers are another one as well. The Packers are always a team that um, they feel like will win regardless of what the situation is, even when they have teams that are maybe not quite as good as teams have been recently. But the Packers are always a well respected team. I've never heard anything really bad about the Packers. Steelers, another one. Steelers, of course, did have some Super Bowl wins back in the 2000s era. But, the Steelers are another team that I think is always well respected. But, it's starting to be a while since they've had a Super Bowl win. There's a bunch of others. But I really feel like out of all of these, Washington is always the team that people really hate. They either hated it because the name changed or they hated it because they thought their original name was racist and that fans are racist for being fans of the team, which I thought was downright stupid. But, you just feel like um, in order to capture that respect and that prestigious sense of this organization, uh, something that this team had back in the 80s. And to have that feeling again, yeah, I think they're going to have to win a Super Bowl, but I think they're going to have to be consistent with playoff appearances and wins. Even if they don't make the Super Bowl in the next couple of years, they need to be able to have winning seasons back to back, win a playoff game, be a team that looks like they're improving each and every year. Um, and a team that's going to be a consistent, like, that team is always going to be in the mix before I think that they get respected. And I think a lot of that comes down to, of course, the coaching, the talent as well. But I think the whole thing, I think just overall seeing an owner who is trying to do the right things for the team, for the organization, for the fans, and all of that, I think eventually people will start seeing that and start respecting the team, hopefully. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. If you did, give it a like, give it a share. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think it's just going to come down to wins and losses? That's how we get respect back, or is it the whole gamut? Anyway, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.